Okay, so we find ourselves learning the Grow on page Resh Mem Zion. Let me see what I'm doing here. All right, so it'll be what it'll be. Tana. So it starts like this. Lamanda v'braisa shenim tzurcha b'lona b'kabola. I know that you probably have the Groa, the regular Groa. I have a book here that has the regular, the Groa himself. I guess you probably have that too. But it looks to me like, huh? Oh, okay. So it looks to me like the Gra really deals with a whole bunch of, like it's a bunch of, not, I don't know what to put it down. It's like a lot of notes. Like it's a certain way of saying notes. It strings it together, but it's like, his mind must be working like really super fast. So he has to get it down. That's why I thought. You want me to send you some of that, just so you can see what the difference is?
No, I can get it online.
Okay. Tana, Lamada Braisa Shanim Belanda Bakabola. Before the time that the balance scale came into being. That is, Kodim Tikkun Shorish, I guess it means at the time of the Nikudim when they broke. He said, Kodim Tikkun Shorish Hamaskala Be'erikanpin, so the root of it has to be set into place in Erikanpin. Shuhu Haschalos Tikkun Hamaskala B'mochim Shal Mochas Timor. Where does this begin? It begins in the Mochas Timor, in the balance scale begins there, the Eric Anpin, Besod Dacher V'Nuk. And this is the first time you see opposites come out. So he said, but he says specifically male and female, Shehem Trin Itrin Chasadim Gevuros. And where do these Chasadim Gevuros come from? Hamis Mazgim, which are mixed together, Yachad Yidera Das, and the Das mixes them. So Ravinir Mazar Besod Shlosh Havayu Shal Mochas Timor. And these three aspects are apparently referenced by the fact that there are three Havayos in the Mochas Timor. Before this time, I guess the time of the tikkun of this, there is Abba ve'Ima not looking at each other face to face. Shuhu b'chinas zivug Abba ve'Ima nikroim zivug. 1 second. Let me see this good. Which are called zivug pane b'pane v'zivug the nishikin, which is also the secret of the zivug that has to do with kissing. The kevin shadach of nesake in the mochas dimor the erik anpin bebekinas mokim shal trin itrin chasad v'gavuras hamis mazgem yachad ayidere radas kibalo matohu, because in the time of the olam matohu there is no das. That's the problem. Now, I think he might deal with this, but the question is that in the Malachim you do have a das. There's a Melcha das. So here he says there's no das. So they said there's no das to be able to machria between Chesed and Gevurah. Because the fact that when they come around face to face is really the manifestation at the beginning of he says the word Gilui means manifestation or revelation of the maskala. Shel zivug docher v'nuk, which begins in the Mochas Dimah and is male and female. So the root for the maskala has not developed. And as a result of the fact that there's no maskala, so therefore there's no way to balance anything out, and as a result of that, that's why the malachim died. Vazgam meisor malachim akadmonim, and this is what caused their death. Shehoyu kodim olam hatikun, that is, they were there before olam hatikun. Shehin sheva malachim, and it is karan b'Torah. These are the 7 malachim that we understand in the parsha of Yishalach. He says of a cause of bechem v'yimloch v'yamos, that they ruled, but they also died. V'hem sheish kitzvos, and what are they in fact? Well, actually they are, I guess what I would say, become the 6 kitzvos shel zer anpin chesed gevur tiferes netzach hod and yisod. So that's the malachim. The malachim are those guys. V'yachad im das, and together with the das, shekolocha b'kol sheish kitzvos, which has within it the 6 kitzvos. Harecha b'hem sheva malachim, that makes 7. Okay, so normally, okay, that's 7. Okay. So why are they called malachim? The fish zer anpen anikra melech, because of the aspect of zer anpen, or they, like he says, they are. I guess they're an attempt to make a zer anpen. I guess something like that. Sheheba b'china zer anpen anikra melech. But the fish yatsa ba'olam tohu, but also because they came out into the world of Tohu, b'bechinas malchus bilvad, only with that one aspect of themselves. They were only, I guess, female. V'od ki ka'ashecha ba'or shal kol echad mechem niknas esocha kli shalos, since all of the lights, let's get the words right. Kishakol echad mechem, each one of them, niknas esocha kli shalo, each one of them goes into its own kli. Kibacha b'techila, so therefore, Mamshola mebechila as ha'orish shall call shar ha'malach shebetachtav. Now it doesn't say that. It says that it gets all of the other oros that are coming from the partsufim that will be below it. And then after that, these lights go down all to the rest, all of the rest of the malachim. So therefore, each one of them is like a king. Because he has everything, in control of everything, but and he's in a position to start doling out to his servants. So his ministers, let's say. So he's says or they couldn't handle all the light so that they broke and everything fell down into Olam Abriya, all the Kalim. Now they're not completely and totally destroyed. But they're considered to be like they're dead, al hakalim, in regards to the Kalim, or you have this aspect attached to the Kalim. Because they left their position. And what happens is the oros went back up into Atzilus. This is similar to a person when they pass away. That what happens is that they go down into the grave, but the neshama separates from it. So he's got a definition on this word ziyunaihu. So the ziyunaihu lo shtakachu, you can't find the ziyunaihu. What is that? Because the reason why the malachim died, now we're going to get close to this concept of ziyunim. The malachim don't nimser adaim, they're still not found. Is that they came out only as 6s. Let's see the fee. Let me go back. They're still not there. It was only 6 kitzvos. But there was no mochim and ataros. But it doesn't have this combination. Now, he had mentioned before that the taros are male and female in the Mochos Dimah. Now, here we're talking about the Nikudim. The Sham Mochim Heim Taros Besod Trin Itrin. So the Mochim, he says, are the concept of crowns. Because the Mochim Heim Taros Besod Trin Itrin Shal Chasana Gavur Sha'aba Ve'ima Ma'atrin Ezer Anpen. And this is the concept of where Abba Ve'ima come and place crowns on the head of Zer Anpin. So V'gorman Zivug Zer Anpin Zer Venuk, and this fact that you have this presence of Abba Ve'ima here, relating to Zer Anpin, this causes a yichud in Zer Anpin. Now he didn't say that they enter into Zer Anpin. There's a little different kinds of subtleties here. Begam the crimes ziyunim. So this word ziyunim ki hamochan mispashtim bezayin. So Zion, he says in number 7, it goes into 7 different places. Bezayin spheres tachtonis the zer anpin bebechinas das and mispashit beguf. And this is the concept of the das as it comes in from Abba Ve'ima, being carried in the Yesod of Abba Yesodos of Abba Ve'ima, bebechinas das mispasha beguf, and then it spreads into the body at the concept of gedas. V'hidecha bekeven she'Abba Ve'ima lecha b'choya mashgichan lehizdaveg ponim beponim k'dei lacham shekataro shal hamochim elu. So since they're not mashgichim, they're not looking lehizdaveg to make a yichud of the ponim beponim, for the purpose of bringing down the Yitaros of Mochim Elu Ela Malachim Shazer Anpin, since they're not doing that, Zecha B'choya Gorem El Mises HaMalachim. So it means to say that Abba Ve'ima, his words are exactly, he said, Ki lo choya mashgichim, it looks, this is not the direction of their thinking. His daveg panim bepanim, that's not what they want to do at this point. Kedei laham shegataras, to do in order to bring these opposites into the malachim shazer anpin. Zecha b'choya gorem al mises hamakab hamalachim, and this is really the real cause of the fact that they died. Ki hamochim ha'elu nikroyim chayim, because the mochim are life. The kevin are alive. And once you bring this force of life into the lower world, so I guess that means that's what it does. They bring life into the lower worlds. That's what they're able to do. He said, so this life force is missing, so they didn't have the power of life. And so therefore the opposite of life is death. So the root, the upper root of the fact that they're missing these mochim, because in this world which he's calling the olam atohu, so in the olam atohu, lo choyeradaim koyach hamaskalo shall trin itrin the mala b'mokstimon to erikatpen. It's because of the fact that there is no maskalo, there's no balance that begins in the mokstimon the zeranpen shuhu shor shamochim b'koyach hazivok shall abba ve'ima, which is the root of the mochin that are going to come ultimately into zachav enok. That's my words. B'koyach hazivok, and also the power that's generated by the yichud of abba ve'ima. It's not happening. And therefore, so since you don't have an entire, this is what he's saying, since you don't have these two interests, so you don't have that in the Mochas Timah, so therefore they don't have the ability to be able to mitzyached panim bepanim, so that they can give these ataras and pass them down into the malachim. Varu is batlos b'keven shemesach b'sheva b'locha das gevura teferes netzach hod yisod, since they're all dead. So he says they all died. He says nimsa ki hamalchus hanikras eretz, and malchus is called eretz. Ha'isa b'teilah mikara. It was from its very beginning. It wasn't going to work. Commotion emor. I have the word betela. I translate not working. Because it says the land was empty or in chaos. The idea is like this: she's empty. She has no shefa of her own. For what she gets from the malachim, shehem shorsh their anpen, which is the source that we talk about all the time. Let me get this lined up a little better. So he said, so that's the basic idea of malchus is the kli. So malchus is when we're going to pick up all of the shefa that's coming from the malachim. The malchus, and since they're not pouring into malchus, because they're dead, it turns out that the Mida called Malchus never gets in control at all, not even a moment, because nothing comes through to her. So therefore, so therefore Malchus is not part of the count of the 7 Malachim. Now this seems to be some kind of an idea I don't quite grasp. Let's read the rest of it. And that parsha over there. Lo nizkara b'malchus klal. You don't see the malchus mentioned. So he's saying that amongst the malachim, the 6 malachim, there's no malchus in it, because and she never gets any shefa to be able to help herself out. Now, I thought that it was that all of the things that are pour into Yisod, say for example, then pour into Malchus, and the Malchus breaks. Here he's saying that Malchus never has anything. Never really exists. Never has a function. 1 second.
Yeah.
Is that it? That's it. Wow, that is it. Kind of shiur that we're saying, that I'm saying right now. It's a volunteer deal. Okay. Took me a sec. I still can't figure out how to use the phone 100%. Okay, so now we got to page Resh Nun Gimel. Now the tohu, I was just thinking that the tohu is like
You know what?
I got it on, I got the wrong page? Resh Nun Gimel.
I'm just saying, looks like we're missing a lot of good footnotes.
We're missing a lot of good footnotes.
Like, yeah, it looks like a lot of interesting things, explanations and stuff.
My personal opinion is that we should keep going like we're going right now. If you want to go back over, if you want to go back over it like another way, because I want to hear what the Gaon has to say in general. I just want to hear what he has to, what his pro. He's going into a big deal about the maskala, which I think the maskala was relatively less dealt with in the Rav's version, or the version that they say is the Rav's. Anyway, that's what I like to do. I'm sure there's a lot of good notes. What are you talking about?
I just put some of the things to understand better. But we could do it a different time.
Okay, I'd like to see it. You know, I haven't seen it. You know what I mean? So anyway, so we're now on Olam Atikun. So I was going to say that just the concept of making an Olam, you know, the one that broke is like darkness before light. We have that kind of idea. Advokala Thronos Atikun Shal Olam Atohu. So all of those, he says the word ad. Then he says, Vokal Chesronis Tikun Shal Olam Atohu, because all of the things that are lacking in that world, all you rock, Achinisakein Olam Atikun, until there comes along an Olam Atikun, which is set into place. Besod Tikun Hamaskala. And how is that Tikun actually set? So the beginning of it, he says, is the concept of the Maskala, the Resha, and it's in the head, Ki Acher Kach Ba'olam Atikun Nisakein HaRoshel parts of Eric Anpin. So after the Tikkun starts, there's a Tikkun that takes place in the head of Eric Anpin. He said, Rosh Olam Atzilus, which is also the head of Olam Atzilus. Bonus Saking the Chidecha B'Tikkun Amaskala. So the first thing that has to be done there is, I guess, to take the Birurim, or however it works, and to create this Maskala. The Haidach B'Tikkun Muchas Timor, that is the Muchas Timor, and which is, he says, is Shebarosh Eric Anpin, Bibichin is Donka Vanok. He makes it into male-female. Besod Shlosh Havayus, because, and how does he do this? It's the secret of three Havayus, Kamo his Bayer La'el, he says this has already been explained. I'm not sure that it is or it isn't, but go on. Which is really the desire of all desires. What does desires of all desires mean? I guess that's what we talked about previously. He said, Roshel Eric Anpin, who chemdes kol hachemdos. It's the ultimate desire. Ki begugolta shel Eric Anpin meir oros ha-hivarto elivinunis. So he says that from this head is where the lights of whiteness come. Shekol tachtoinim b'chom dem b'niknasim alechem, that all of the lights of the lower light want it. They desire it. They hunger for it. B'nechsafim alechem lehanas mechem, to really get all the be'orim, to order to be able to get everything they can, the blessings from their light. Milvad tikkun the rishon shel Eric Anpin, and he says besides the first tikkun of Eric Anpin, b'bechinas zadakor v'nukvel b'sod the maskala, which is the secret of the maskala. So understand that creation of these two opposites, but he says specifically Zachar V'Nuk, but I was thinking that it means all different kinds of opposites. He said, Eric Anpin, Bebechinas Zachar V'Nuk, Besod Hamaskala Ka'amor, like it's making that, Yesh Od Tikun Sheni Shal Hislavshus Ha'aras B'Tzinoras Dakim Kadeshu Yuchul L'Hoyer B'Tachtain. And there's another possibility of how things work. It says that Yesh Od Tikkun, the Sheni, there's a second Tikkun besides the Maskala, and that one is going to be the beer, the Verikanpin, this Lavshus Oras Bitzinoras in channels, Kadesha Yuchlo the Hala Betachtoinim, Valkain Levushim Dikar Asking. So therefore there's some kind of a glorious levush that has to be put into place. Nesakin Erik Anpin b'shlosh aser tikuni dikna. So therefore, that's what that means, is that Erik Anpin develops, or the word is misakin, sent into place in his dikna of 13 different coverings, shall kavod Erik Anpin, which becomes the glory of Erik Anpin. So what is this? Ki hasaro shal tikuni dikna, that the hairs of the tikuning of the dikna hem kamotzi noros dakim shovrim v'chem oros. They're like tremendous channels that you have lights landing through them. And he says, excuse me, dam, not tremendous. These are very narrow or thin channels that light runs through. Malvishim, as the oros of the hairs cover the lights, shall Erik Anpin. So therefore the dikna is called a clothing of Erik Anpin. We have this in Daniel. Levushe kaseleg hivor. So its clothing is like white snow. He said v'hasa'aros, and these hairs, nekroim gam levush kabod. So they're also called a levush kabod. Shel Erik Anpin. Because through the hairs of the beard, now we see the revelation of the rachamim of Erik Anpin, and this causes his name to become magnified. So the clothing themselves are concept of a tikkun for Erik Anpin. Hioski tikuni dikna, because through the sa'aros of the tikunim of the dikna na'asach betikun sheyuchlo tachtoinu the kabbalah oros shall Erik Anpin. We understand the Gaon is explaining this out. Because the hairs are like, tremendous, very, very, very narrow, channels. Which limit and contract the light, or also cover over the light, so the lower world can receive it. So what they do is they give all of the shefa of manchil oros adikna, that is the light that is coming through the dikna in his matas. It goes down to all of the lower parts of Viki Oras Adikna Nimshachin is their Anpin Derek Sa'aras Hamazlos. So ultimately, through the Maslos becomes a connection which allows that all of this light, or the light that is available, comes down through the Maslos, Derek Anpin, the Vishtalshal, and Vyorda the Matacha, because they're Anpin, and they continue going down until they reach their Anpin, their Anpin, Nimshachim, Oros, the Kala Partsuv Tachtainim. For this, it really pulls all the lights, or sends all the lights, streams it down. Now we're going to this next piece. Now, he said, okay, we have two things that he talked about. So one thing is what he's going to come back to now, is the creation of the maskala within the moch stimor of male and female. So now he's going back, and he says, "Hi maskala zera maskala shechabedaka v'nog, t'chaydo abba ve'ima chamisyachdem al yederadas." Now this seems to be different. So before, maybe it is, I don't know, but he said, "Hi maskala." The maskala, he says, is male and female, and then he said, "What does he mean by male and female?" He says he means abba ve'ima, who come together, al yedera das, they are brought together through das. So Abba ve'ima is Chachma Bina, brought together by das. Tali ba'asar, the lo havi. So they hang down to a place where they don't exist. So what does that mean? Tali b'machu she'ein bo havaya v'gilu rebishecho maskala. So they fall down to a place where there is no revelation or no showing of the maskala, where you can't see the maskala. Shuhu Rosh Erik Anpin, which is the head of Erik Anpin, Hanikra La'el Resha de Gosufa, which previously we called the head of desire. Everybody desires to have this shine upon them. Asher Yesh Baharak Shorish Amaskala Shal Dachar Vanuk. Only thing you have there is actually the shorish of the concept of Dachar Vanuk. Besod Shlosha Vayo Shal Mochas Dimon. Now he's mentioned this three times. This concept of the second time, this concept of the three havayos in the Mochas Timah, Kamosh Shehis Boyer La'el, he says this was already explained. But let's just take it what it is. Ak adayim lo nizgala bo maskala b'shal dalka v'dekeva b'bitzias. But the fact that you have a shorish doesn't have any actual revelation or manifestation. It's not physical in any way, or it's just that's it. Ki ba'erik anpin ein nukve mamish, because in Erik anpin there is no actual female separation. But actually, where you see the Gilui of the Maskala is only an Abba Ve'ima. So that's where you start to see Ve'ima Shehem Shnei Partsufim Nifradim, which are two completely different Partsufim, Shechav Dachav Benot. That the Das causes them to come together. So he says that this Maskala, which refers to Abba Ve'ima, Tolui Berosh Erik Anpin. It all really depends on what's going on in the head of Erik Anpin, Shehu Shor Shashroshim, which is the root of the roots, Shel Tika the Maskala, of the effect that is affected by the Maskala. Once again, Tikun means concept of Hismatus. So Moshe Yisbor, as has been explained, so let's go over to the head of Erik Anpin. It really depends. Let's go back again. The Rosh of Erik Anpin. It really depends in something which is hidden, b'shorish yoser elyon, in a root which is higher, more penimis, more penimidik, or whatever the right word is. V'hu chesed gevura shal reish the lo isyada. This is the chesed gevura, which is the top of the zat of the reish the lo isyada. That it doesn't really have a name. It doesn't have a Yud-Kei Vav-Kei. There's nothing actually holding it together. Because this is a hidden root of the maskal itself. So we said that the maskal is very important. It has a root too. Because the chesed of the reish lo isyada, mislavish begugolta, the rosh Erik Anpin, is clothed in the head of Erik Anpin. Which is the upper root of Abba. So he says it's Gevura, the Reish, the Lo Isyada, the Gevura on that side. He says Mislavish, but Mochas Dimoz also clothes itself in the Mochas Dimoz of Rosh Erik Anpin. Shehu Shorsha Elyon Shal Ima, which is the upper root of Ima, so it's tying it back into Atik Yomim. And he says furthermore, so now that these two are working, that is the maskala, which is Abba Ve'ima, nisakno gam hamochin the gadol shel zer anpin, then it's possible to make it possible to bring down the mochin of godless that zer anpin seeks. Is kal akal bebe inun delo yishtakachu. So iskalo is, I guess, balancing. Be inen de lo ishtakachu, the things which are not found. What does that mean? Ki bezecha maskala shall yichud v'zivug, this maskala, which refers to the yichud of the zivug of Abba ve'ima shetalu b'rosh Erik Anpin, which really depends on the shorsh in Erik Anpin, and the shorsh that of Erik Anpin, which is in the reish of the lo isyada. This is how we're balanced out the mochin of godless shall zer anpin, that are going to ultimately make the mochin of zer anpin. This did not exist in the olam matohu. So we had that phrase up there. So he says that the Jews, I guess the ziyunai was like the Jews. So the Jews lo yishtachu, there's nothing there. But now in olam the mochim actually start coming down. And how do they start appearing? He said, "Bekoach reisha the l'ksufa the Erik Anpin, for the power of the reisha of desire come from Erik Anpin. Shatalu and the mala b'shorish and the elam, which really depends. It really talu really means hangs, or it somehow develops out of." The shorish and the elam shehu chesed the gevura shall reishad lo leisida kamochu kushan is boyer. So now the Gaon is traced it all back. So now you have the root of the root. I mean, there's a root of the root of the root. We didn't get that far. But the maskalam and Erik Anpin la'ava ve'ima. So he says now what we want to talk about is how this develops. so that this maskula what appears in Abba Ve'ima, ki hine amarno tolias a maskula, that the hanging of the maskula, because the maskula, let's say, like, if you really have a balance scale, just hangs there. Tolias a maskula chashal Abba Ve'ima rabachu berosh Erik Anpin, what it's hanging from is something, this is my metaphor, it's hanging from is something in the Reshda, the Erik Anpin. Maskula koyin begufe. Amnon, but we see like this. Haschalos amaskalo shel Abba ve'ima omed rak b'makom guf Erik Anpin, where the actual maskala starts to become manifest is only in the bottom, in the body of Erik Anpin, and corresponding to the body of Erik Anpin is where Abba ve'ima are located. So he said, shel Abba ve'ima omed rak b'makom guf Erik Anpin. That's all. That's where they are. The Hainu, Bechesed, Gevura, Teferes, the Erik Anpin, they surround the Chagat of Erik Anpin, of Hanekroim Guf, which would be the beginning of his body, at any rate, or the basis of his body. Ki Abba Malvish Zero B'Yomim Shucha Bechesed the Erik Anpin, because Abba is surrounding the right arm of Erik Anpin. Ve'imach Malveshes the Zero small Shucha Gevura the Erik Anpin versus the Gevura of Erik Anpin. And they come together through the Teferes of Erik Anpin. Amata nimsa ki guf the Erik Anpin hu shor shamochin the maskala. So we say, now look, the body of Erik Anpin is the root from which the maskala develops in Abba Ve'ima. V'rosh Erik Anpin hu shor shashroshim. So the head of Erik Anpin then becomes the root of the mochim, the maskala that are going to come into the machzala, that are going to go through through Abba Ve'ima and come into Zer Anpin, v'amdach shorsh, and the elam. Let's not forget that there's a hidden root, ha'elyon shalamochin the maskala, and that's the chesed gevur shuchu aguf shal reisha lo isi the kamoshes boyer, which is that reisha. Umavor Odin explains furthermore. What we say is, where does the maskala really begin? Shel Abba Ve'ima v'Abba Ve'ima. He said, b'makom guf Erik Anpin, and let's not forget, it corresponds to the place of the body of Erik Anpin, hainu davka b'derek itzlavshus, but only in the concept of being clothed. Now, what does that mean? Lo is ached be'ima be'ima ena ne'achozim mamish beguf Erik Anpin. So he says they actually really don't come together. It's not really a levush. He says mamish beguf Erik Anpin ki be'Erik Anpin atzmo ein v'chatefisa v'achiza, because it's not possible. There's nothing there to actually hold on to. I guess something like this, just energy. So the only way they actually receive this is through these two mazlos, number 8 and 13, shall dikna de Erik Anpin. Below is chaze, and it's not seen. Even though we understand that Abba Ve'ima represent the force of this balance in some way, Omed b'makom guf Erik Anpin, and it's standing in the opposite the place of the body of Erik Anpin. Im kol zecha b'guf Erik Anpin einu nira ve'ena nigla klal. Even so, there's no Erik Anpin there. You can't find it. It doesn't reveal itself at all. It doesn't show itself. Ki guf Erik Anpin, because this phrase, the body of Erik Anpin, hum b'chulse, is covered away. V'nistar min partzufim, and hidden completely from the partzufim atachtainim, which are below it. Okay, we can go to there. Tomorrow we'll finish up this little piece and we'll start going to the Gegolta and like that. We'll just keep moving because that's what I'm preparing. Like that. Okay, go to. Bye bye.